This was supposed to be a lesson. But you were mistaken, Witcher. You mistook the stars reflected on a pond at night for the sky. I shall see you later. One day, perhaps.
After slaying another group of hunters, this time sent by the fire mage Rience, Geralt is reminded that the continent-wide hunt for Ciri is becoming inescapable. Hunted by some of the most powerful factions on the continent, Geralt and Ciri and Yennefer spend a season living the life of nomads, traveling between temporary homes. During their travels, Geralt remains bitter toward Yennefer, due to her betrayal regarding the Deathless Mother, but still allows her to train Ciri in the art of chaos magic. When winter comes, the trio finds a more permanent home thanks to Geralt's friend Yarpen, the dwarven mercenary. Over the winter, Geralt and Yennefer mend their relationship, but trouble continues to brew on the continent, as Yarpen brings reports of elven Scoia'tael raiders pillaging nearby convoys. To lighten the mood, he also invites everyone to the upcoming Spring Bellatine Festival for some lighthearted celebration. Elsewhere, Francesca, the leader of the elves, converses with her brother Gage and her husband Filavandrel. Although Francesca remains convinced that Ciri's elder blood is the key to victory in the war to come, other elves begin to doubt her leadership, including Gallatin, one of the Scoia'tael leaders. Meanwhile, in the luxurious kingdom of Redania, King Vizimir consults with his spy masters, Dijkstra and Philippa, and reprimands them for not locating Ciri yet. Eager for quicker results, Vizimir appoints his brother, the bumbling Prince Radovid, to aid in their search. At the Bellatine Festival, a relaxing night goes sideways when a monster called a Jackapace, sent by Rience, attacks Ciri by tracking the scent of her elven blood. Although Geralt manages to slay the beast with style, he realizes that Rience is closing in, and begins to form a plan to stop him. Meanwhile, Jaskier the Bard runs into Philippa and Prince Radovid, who try to convince him to bring Ciri to Redania for safety. With Geralt's plan in motion, the group leaves in Yarpen's convoy and travels to an ancient elven battlefield called Shaerrawedd, hoping to draw out Rience. The next morning, Rience tries to kidnap Ciri, leading to a bloody battle in the courtyard of Shaerrawedd. Although he partially escapes through a portal, Geralt pursues him and incapacitates him, returning to the battle as the elves also join the fray. Francesca's attempt to kidnap Ciri is also easily foiled by Geralt, who slaughters countless warriors, including Francesca's brother, Gage. In the aftermath, the group decides to split up, with Geralt aiming to hunt down Rience, while Yennefer and Ciri head to Aretuza. Elsewhere, as the elves recover from the battle, Gallatin abandons the group due to Francesca's faulty leadership. Finally, as a storm brews in Nilfgaard, Emperor Emhyr waits patiently in his palace until the day that he and Ciri are reunited at last. On their way to Aretuza, Yennefer and Ciri make a quick stop in a small town, so that Yennefer can send a secret message to Tissaia, but Ciri's ominous visions return. The next day, Geralt and Jaskier visit Codringer and Fenn's shop and learn that Rience's employer works out of the castle in Redania called Volpan. So, Geralt heads to investigate. Meanwhile, in Nilfgaard, Emperor Emhyr has his trusty sword repaired while Fringilla toils away in the dungeons below, serving out her sentence by testing wine for poison. Seeking passage to Aretuza, Yennefer and Ciri arrive at a local market and meet with the portal weaver Kira, who offers them a discreet way through. However, their plan is interrupted when Ciri frees an imprisoned child from a grimy-looking mercenary, forcing Yennefer to kill the man. When Kira flees in fear, Yennefer and Ciri are left empty-handed and narrowly flee to a town on foot. Later, while walking in the woods, Yennefer decides to take a quick detour, as to give Ciri a better perspective on her future. At Aretuza, members of the Brotherhood argue over growing tensions in the northern kingdoms and the potential of all-out war, while Triss discovers that one of her students has gone missing, with a bloodstain left behind in her room. In Redania, the masochistic Dijkstra clears his mind with some platonic whipping from Philippa, who encourages him to recruit Prince Radovid for their untold master plan. Meanwhile, Jaskier meets with Radovid and shares all the information he has regarding Rience, before the pair share a tender moment and bid farewell. Nearby, Geralt arrives at Volpan Castle and enters with caution, expecting the worst. Elsewhere, Cahir carries out his sentence as a lowly conscript for Emperor Emhyr, and he is saved by Gallatin while fighting some soldiers. In return, Cahir conspires with him to overthrow Francesca's leadership. In Nilfgaard, Fringilla also manages to escape from the dungeons by hiding in a body bag, finally free of captivity despite being dumped in a ditch. Meanwhile, Geralt investigates Castle Volpan and discovers a gruesome three-headed human experiment as well as a traumatized blonde-haired girl. While attempting to save her, Geralt is attacked by a disgusting flesh beast, but he manages to kill it and escape the castle with the girl. That night in Redania, Dijkstra is shocked to learn from Radovid that the king has been meeting with officials from Nilfgaard in secret. At the same time, Rience pays a surprise visit to Codringer and Fenn's shop and sets it ablaze, killing them in the process. Back at Aretuza, Tissaia receives Yennefer's letter and discusses the situation with her partner, Vilgefortz. Although Tissaia worries about how Yennefer's return will affect the Brotherhood, Vilgefortz promises that all will be forgiven and eases her mind by giving her a special bracelet. The next morning, Yennefer and Ciri arrive at the site of Yennefer's old home, and through a shared vision, relive her memories. As Ciri witnesses Yennefer's vengeful quest for beauty and power, ultimately leading to the massacre at Sodden, she begins to understand just how dangerous her powers can be if used for the wrong reasons. Elsewhere, Geralt guards the young girl as she wakes up from her stupor, and when he asks her for her name, she surprisingly claims that she is Ciri. Suspecting that the mysterious girl is under an enchantment, Geralt and Jaskier take her to a druid named Annika, who was also close friends with Geralt's estranged mother, Vicenna. There, they learn that the girl is partially elven and under a complex mind control spell. As Annika's partner, Otto, makes an extraction elixir for the girl and awaits the effects, she informs Geralt that his mother recently passed away. Meanwhile, Yennefer and Ciri make a stop in the city of Gors Velen and visit a prestigious dwarven bank run by Yennefer's friend, Giancardi. As Yennefer awaits a secret meeting with Tissaia, she sends Ciri out into the town for a few hours of fun with a young man from the bank named Fabio, and gives her a talisman imbued with a tracking spell for protection. When Yennefer finally meets with Tissaia in the bank's vault, she profusely apologizes for her past actions and asks Tissaia to accept Ciri as a student at Aretuza. In Redania, King Vizimir informs his advisors that he has made a deal with Nilfgaard, but Dijkstra warns him that it could be a trap. As Vizimir continues to disregard Dijkstra's warnings, tensions rise, but Philippa reassures Dijkstra that their secret plan is coming together. However, Dijkstra still refuses to befriend Radovid, further driving a wedge between the two. At the same time, Istrid meets with a courier and purchases a few elven artifacts, but discovers that his most valued item, the ancient Book of Monoliths, has already been sent to a buyer at Aretuza. Meanwhile, Cahir and Gallatin arrive at Emhyr's palace and consult with the Emperor, with Gallatin expressing his doubt about Francesca's leadership. As Gallatin leaves, Emhyr tells Cahir that his time of punishment is almost over, but he must commit one more act to be fully forgiven. Back at Annika's cottage, the extraction potion takes effect, and new information is revealed. The girl says her real name is Terran, and that she was an apprentice at Aretuza, but she was kidnapped and experimented on by one of the professors. However, before she can provide the professor's name, she goes back into a trance and lashes out, causing some brief chaos before Jaskier subdues her. Back in Gors Velen, Ciri enjoys her time in the market and decides to check out a local monster show. In addition to having her coins stolen by a pickpocket, Ciri is also upset to learn that the show is a scam, and the monster is simply a malnourished infant wyvern. When Ciri accidentally sets the wyvern free, she is forced to kill the aggressive beast, and while fleeing, runs into Yennefer, Tissaia, and the other Brotherhood mages. As the ladies relax at a local spa, the mood turns sour, as Yennefer and Ciri argue over her future as an apprentice at Aretuza. Afterward, while talking with Tissaia, Yennefer proposes that they host a conclave for all the mages across the continent to strengthen relationships in the face of the oncoming war. Outside, Ciri attempts to make contact with Geralt with her tracking talisman before running away. Back at the college, Anika and Geralt discuss the death of his mother, and while Geralt is moved by her memory, he promises to never abandon Ciri in the same way. After hearing Terran's story, he plans to travel to Aretuza and uncover the corrupt professor's identity. In Redania, a package for King Vizimir arrives from Nilfgaard, containing his wife's decapitated head. After settling the chaos, Dijkstra reveals to Radovid that he and Philippa actually killed the queen and framed Nilfgaard, warning him to keep quiet or potentially suffer the same fate. Nearby, Philippa learns some information from her partner Ava, and deduces that Rience's employer must also be working with Nilfgaard. Meanwhile, in the Nilfgaardian palace, Cahir proves his loyalty to the Emperor by killing Gallatin, preventing any discourse between the elves. Elsewhere, Ciri rides her horse through the forest, but is pursued by an ominous clan of spectral horsemen, called the Wild Hunt. Luckily, Geralt appears just in time and saves Ciri with a blast of magic, leaving behind a smoldering piece of Wild Hunt armor. Plagued by guilt, Cahir receives his first official order from Emperor Emhyr and sets out to meet with Francesca. At Aretuza, Yennefer meets with the Brotherhood Council and shares her plan for the conclave, and everyone agrees, except for Stregobor. Tissaia asks Yennefer to hand-deliver an invitation to Philippa in Redania, but they are interrupted by Triss, who tells them that another apprentice has gone missing. When Tissaia disregards her concern, Triss leaves and finds Istredd in the library, who tells her about the Book of Monoliths, and that it holds the power to disrupt different spheres of reality. Meanwhile, Ciri, Geralt, and Jaskier arrive at the docks, and Geralt agrees to kill a lurking sea monster in exchange for passage to Aretuza. In Redania, funeral processions begin for the queen while Dijkstra and Philippa continue to discuss their plans. When Yennefer arrives via a portal and delivers the conclave invitation to Philippa, King Vizimir demands that Dijkstra and Radovid accompany her. Back on the boat, Geralt and Ciri share a heartwarming conversation about Ciri's potential future as a great leader. But they are interrupted by the sea monster, leading to a frenzied battle. Fighting together, they slay the beast with significant style, and soon arrive safely on shore. When Yennefer tries to take a portal home from Redania, she is teleported to a mysterious cliffside and attacked by a phantom version of Geralt, before she successfully takes another portal back to Aretuza. While Triss heals Yennefer's wounds, she expresses her suspicions about the disappearing novices, fearing that Ciri could also be in danger. Elsewhere, Fringilla celebrates her freedom with a raunchy night of drinking, and learns about the upcoming conclave while eavesdropping. When Geralt and Ciri arrive at Aretuza, he tells her about Terran, and warns her to be cautious, and Jaskier promises to guard her for the night. Meanwhile, Geralt and Yennefer are reunited and forgive each other, happy to finally be back together. After playing some cards with Ciri in a small cottage, Jaskier hears a commotion outside and discovers a lurking Radovid, and the pair spend a steamy night together in a nearby shed. At the same time, Cahir meets with Francesca and offers a renewed partnership on behalf of Emperor Emhyr, which the elves accept. Back at Aretuza, Triss and Istredd magically track the Book of Monoliths and are shocked when they learn of its location. As everyone prepares for the opening ball of the conclave, Yennefer and Geralt begin to suspect that Stregobor is the corrupt professor, but require solid proof. Arriving at the ball in their finest apparel, Yennefer and Geralt prepare to find their evidence on Stregobor. After an awkward encounter with Sabrina, Geralt briefly chats with Philippa about Redanian politics, while Tissaia encourages Yennefer to mend her relationships with the other mages. Swapping out with Philippa, Dijkstra tries to convince Geralt to bring Ciri to Redania, but as expected, Geralt refuses his offer and promptly leaves. Meanwhile, Yennefer and Philippa discuss a fellow mage, Lydia, who has reportedly fallen in love with her master, leading to her unconditional loyalty. Philippa suggests that Tissaia might be similarly misguided by her love for Vilgefortz, and that a Nilfgaardian traitor might be in the Brotherhood. Meanwhile, Geralt runs directly into Stregobor, who is busy scolding a staff member. Reunited after many months, the bitter rivals express their mutual disdain, and when Stregobor brings up Renfri's death, Geralt vows to bring him to justice. As Geralt storms off to the balcony upstairs, Istrid and Triss tell Yennefer that Stregobor has stolen the Book of Monoliths and has hidden it in his office. Realizing that this might be the evidence they need, they quickly try to think of a distraction so that Yennefer can swipe the book. On the upstairs balcony, Geralt is greeted by Vilgefortz, who shares an ominous warning and tries to convince Geralt to join his side. Downstairs, a mandatory traditional dance called the Melange begins, and as dancing partners are swapped frequently, Geralt and Yennefer get the chance to chat with a variety of guests. During the dance, Geralt shrugs off several overzealous partners, while Yennefer catches up with old friends. As the melange comes to an end, Geralt and Istrid begin their distraction by faking a fistfight over Yennefer. With the crowd's attention diverted, Yennefer breaks into Stregobor's office and discovers a magical safe containing a list of missing apprentices and some of their personal items. As other members of the Brotherhood arrive, Yennefer accuses Stregobor of kidnapping the students, due to his hatred for elves, while Istrid also discovers the Book of Monoliths in the safe. Confronted by such strong evidence, Stregobor is carried away pending a full trial, and Tissaia promises to look after the book. However, she drops her special bracelet as she leaves, which Yennefer picks up. Back at the party, Tissaia and Vilgefortz call for a celebratory toast and thank Yennefer for setting up the event. During the toast, Geralt tells Yennefer that he loves her for the first time, ending the night on a heartwarming note. The next day, as Geralt and Yennefer discuss their independent conversations with Philippa and Vilgefortz, they have a disturbing revelation. Noticing that Tissaia's bracelet is made from the same material as Lydia's earrings, they realize that Vilgefortz is actually the corrupt professor, not Stregobor, and that he has been manipulating Tissaia the entire time, while Lydia and Rience do his dirty work. Suddenly, chaos breaks out in the castle, and when Geralt goes to investigate, he is ambushed by Dijkstra, who threatens him with a knife to the throat. As Geralt is held at knife point, but ultimately spared due to his neutrality, Dijkstra and Philippa begin a coup and start rounding up various members of the Brotherhood. Sensing danger, Yennefer attempts to reach out to Ciri with her talisman before making her escape through a secret passage. In the nearby cottage, Radovid tries to break into the hut and kidnap Ciri, but Jaskier catches him in the act and insults his integrity, causing him to apologize and flee. However, Jaskier discovers that Ciri has already fled into the woods. In the caves below Aretuza, Yennefer is ambushed by Lydia, but she is rescued by Triss, and Yennefer kills Lydia before leaving. Back inside, Dijkstra and Philippa hold most of the mages captive and accuse Vilgefortz of being a Nilfgaardian traitor. When Tissaia arrives and notices a fleet of Redanian ships moving in, she magically frees all of the mages from their shackles. As Dijkstra tries to escape, Geralt confronts him, and they fight, leaving Dijkstra bloodied and broken. Meanwhile, after successfully fighting off the Redanian captors, Vilgefortz reveals his true colors to Tissaia and admits that he was working with Nilfgaard the entire time. Opening a secret passage, Vilgefortz receives reinforcements from Francesca, Cahir, Fringilla, and numerous elven warriors, leading to a vicious and bloody skirmish. During the battle, Tissaia attempts to kill Francesca with a lethal spell, but hits Filavandrel instead, resulting in his bloody demise. Enraged, Francesca brings a floating ring of fire crashing to the ground, setting the courtyard on fire. Outside, Yennefer is reunited with Ciri, but they are ambushed by Rience. However, Geralt swoops in to rescue them, instantly killing Rience with one slice of his sword. Back at the battle, Tissaia resorts to desperate measures and begins to summon the powerful spell, Aljur's Thunder. At the same time, Istrid attempts to recover the Book of Monoliths, but he is also ambushed by Vilgefortz, who spawns a dark portal and pushes Istrid through it. Nearby, Dijkstra is almost killed, but Philippa uses her owl form to save him, and the pair flee Aretuza together. Meanwhile, as Yennefer heads back to Aretuza to help Tissaia, Geralt and Ciri encounter Cahir, who apologizes for his terrible crimes in Cintra. As elven warriors approach, Cahir holds them off, allowing Geralt and Ciri to escape. When Yennefer arrives on the battlefield, they also receive help from an unlikely ally, as Stregobor stays behind and fights the elves. As Geralt and Ciri look for a way off the island, Vilgefortz appears, and Geralt fights him while Ciri runs off toward the Torlara Tower. After a brutal fight, Vilgefortz emerges victorious and leaves Geralt heavily wounded on the beach as he pursues Ciri. Inside Torlara, as Vilgefortz gains on Ciri, she magically reacts to the monolith, causing a massive explosion. As Triss comes to Geralt's aid, she and the rest of the survivors look on in horror as the tower comes crumbling to the ground. Magically teleporting away from the explosion at Torlara, Ciri crash lands in the arid and expansive Korath Desert. Back at Aretuza, Jaskier finds Prince Radovid cowering in a corner and takes pity on him, offering information on how to safely return to Redania. Afterward, Jaskier runs into Yennefer and learns that Geralt is in critical condition at the Dryads in Brokilon. Over the next several days, Ciri endures a grueling trek through the Korath Desert, while Geralt recovers in Brokilon. During her journey, Ciri is aided by a mysterious unicorn, which saves her from being eaten by a sand monster and also leads her to a magical watering hole. Losing the guidance of the unicorn at points, she experiences troubling visions of her mother and grandmother, forcing her to overcome her feelings of abandonment. On several occasions, she is also visited by a cloaked figure who reveals herself as Falca, a Redanian princess who was betrayed by her family and burned at the stake after inciting a revolution and killing her father. One day, while Ciri fights off an armored sand monster, the unicorn is gravely injured. Desperate to heal her faithful companion, Ciri is coaxed into using forbidden fire magic by the spirit of Falca, but she scares away the unicorn in the process. As Falca continues to pressure Ciri toward the dark side of her power, she becomes consumed by visions of fire and death and verbally relinquishes her power before blacking out. Soon after, she is found on the outskirts of the desert by a band of slavers. Back at Brokilon, Jaskier visits Geralt and tells him that, according to a royal declaration, Emperor Emhyr has located Ciri and she is being transported to Nilfgaard. Lying broken and on the brink of death, Geralt wordlessly laments his failure to keep Ciri safe. Geralt's recovery continues in Brokilon, but when a special Dryad healing procedure fails to fully heal him, Geralt starts physical training, despite warnings from the elf, Milva. Meanwhile, convinced that Vilgefortz is personally delivering Ciri to Nilfgaard, Yennefer heads to Castle Volpan with the other Brotherhood mages, where they find the flesh beast that Geralt killed weeks prior. Realizing that the beast is actually the missing students, the mages reverse the curse with the help of Philippa and begin to plan a proper burial at Aretuza. In Nilfgaard, Francesca and Fringilla meet with Emhyr and are granted powers of position back in Cintra, but only if Francesca agrees to give up her army to the Emperor. In Redania, King Vizimir tells Dijkstra that he plans on executing Philippa due to the failed coup, which is overheard by Philippa's lover, Ava. Arriving back at Aretuza, Yennefer meets with Tissaia and has an emotional discussion about the future of the Brotherhood and their relationship so far. While the other mages perform the funeral for the murdered students, Tissaia stays behind and, overcome with guilt, ends her own life. Upon finding Tissaia's body, Yennefer visits Geralt at Brokilon and heals him with her chaos magic. Back in Redania, King Vizimir is assassinated by Ava, and as Dijkstra tries to contain the chaos, Philippa crowns Radovid as the new king, her master plan finally coming to fruition. Meanwhile, in Nilfgaard, Francesca and Fringilla discuss their plans to outsmart the Emperor, but during the conversation, Fringilla admits that it was Emhyr that had Francesca's baby killed, partially confessing to her part in the crime as well. Enraged by this revelation, she vows to make Fringilla and Emhyr suffer for their betrayal. As the mages clean up the rubble at Aretuza and reflect on all that they've lost, they decide to band together to fight Vilgefortz and rebuild the school in Tissaia's memory. Meanwhile, Geralt's training starts to show results, and he decides to leave Brokilon with Jaskier, despite Milva's warnings. In Nilfgaard, the princess finally arrives at the palace to meet Emperor Emhyr and Vilgefortz, but instead of Ciri, it is revealed to be Terran under mind control. In reality, Ciri is held captive by the slavers, and when a gang of thieves known as the Rats attack in order to rescue a fellow prisoner, Ciri manages to escape. In the end, she engages in a one-on-one fight with the man who captured her, and she kills him without mercy. Meanwhile, Geralt and Jaskier arrive at a Nilfgaardian checkpoint and are forced to bribe the guard with Renfri's brooch to pass. However, when the guards accost a young girl, Geralt slaughters them all, receiving some surprise assistance from Milva. Leaving the brooch behind, Geralt, Jaskier, and Milva head into Nilfgaard in search of Ciri. As Ciri reflects on taking her first human life and the potential future ahead of her, she tells her new friends to call her Falca, marking a dark turn for her future.
What's your name?
Call me Falca.